day and welcome to Four Wheels Good and a special edition highlighting the new cars and technologies unveiled at the Frankfurt International Motor Show. We'll be looking behind the glitz and glamour of the show to find out how the automotive industry is really progressing, as well as talking to the leading industry bosses. In the programme tonight, we'll meet the designer of the all-new Vauxhall Astra. We'll look at an incredible concept from Ford, which may turn out to be the new Kuga. And we'll have more information on the Mini for the Millennium, which Rover showed us for the first time last week. Well, before all that, the joint BMW and Rover press conference also revealed the latest incarnation of the Z3 Roadster. We actually saw this car in the corner of the Spartanburg factory where we were filming in America a few months ago, but we weren't allowed to show you the pictures. Well, at last, the secret of the M Coupe can be shown to the world.
From BMW, dieser IAA, das BMW M Coupe. Hello and welcome, Mr. Bengal. You're the
Sonia.
chief designer.
Yeah.
And tell us, this car is really different.
Yeah, it is. It's
something
great.
special.
This is. It's really a real fun piece. It's something different. It's not just a Roadster growing up. It's a Roadster of a different style. This is its sister in the garage. A lifestyle car. This coupe that comes from this tradition. You know, we had great sports cars back. You know, Mille Miglia. They all had this type of form. And here now we had a chance to do this, but based on the Z3.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. It looks like the Z3. The front part here.
Well, yeah, you know, we started with that and we decided to keep all that same feeling that the Z3 had, this big swing in from the doors into the body, but still, you know, let you carry some of your lifestyle with you, some luggage, bring it along, have a different kind of car, but a pure sports car.
Ian, the Frankfurt show for BMW, you're breaking away from this traditional image of the conservative BMW, you know, the German company conservatism, with two quite unusual things. Yeah. First of all, the Z3 Coupe, which is very, very striking, whatever people thought about it. You know, here it is in the flesh. How does this sit alongside the Roadster?
Yeah, I guess it's BMW's going away from convention with this car, and I guess the term wacky springs to mind in some ways. When you actually see the car, then the concept starts to fall into place, because it's for those people who want all the performance of a Roadster, the two-seater, but they've got more space. They've got a fixed top on there, so anybody wants to carry things like a roof rack, extra luggage, skis on the top, going skiing, absolutely perfect, yeah. And you've got all this space in the back. And also, because of the design of the car, because you've got a roof which makes the chassis very rigid, you've actually got much better performance. So it's a good all-rounder.
So you don't lose any of the performance, any of the handling that the Roadster has got at all?
Not at all. I mean, it's all enhanced because of that rigidity. So I think people who drive the car will find the performance is just that bit heightened. You know?
And are we going to see the same kind of model range with the Z3 Coupe? We're going to see the 1.9, 2.8 and eventually the M Coupe? What are the plans for the future?
Right, well, we're starting in Britain. We're going to bring in the M Z3 Coupe with the 3.2 Motorsport engine. In Frankfurt here today, they've got on show the 2.8. We have no plans at the moment to bring in the 2.8, and there is no discussion at all about whether we go to a 1.9 on that. But so for us, it's the 3.2 M version.
And when will we expect to see this?
We can see that sometime next year, end of next year for us.
And any inklings about how it's going to be priced? Will it be a similar price to the Roadster?
Yes, it'll be similar to the M Roadster, which is being launched again here today, which we'll have in Britain at the end of this year.
Do you think that people are going to buy it? Do you think they're going to, they're actually going to go for it in great numbers?
No, I don't think it's great numbers. We're looking at a niche market here, so 150, maybe 200 cars in the first year. But then if we do decide to bring a smaller engine in, the 2.8 version, for example, then maybe we could come get more volume there. But it's not going to sell great numbers. It is a select model in a niche market, and that's what we're aiming for.
It's for those people who dare to be a little bit different.
Absolutely.
And if they're really daring to be different, then they can go for the BMW C1, which is its code name, which is this kind of, what is it? Is it a bike? Is it a trike? Is it a car? What is it? You're the man from BMW, you can tell me.
They haven't decided yet what it's going to be, but it's certainly not a car, because it's got two wheels, and it's a little bit more than a bike because it's got a roof. Yeah, so you're actually sitting inside a cage, and the whole concept of this is sort of mobility, but with safety on two wheels. And you've got these crossover seat belts. You've got the cage over the top, a windscreen with windscreen wipers, so you're protected from the elements as well as the safety aspect. So I think it's only 125cc, so we're not looking at the really fast bikes there. It's going to be for people who actually want to maybe commute to the station or commute into London.
Do you think in a way you're looking for a whole new market there? Maybe the kind of people that would go for, say, the smart car and the city car. Is this a whole new market for BMW?
Yes, I think it will be. I mean, what struck me when I first saw it was the fact that as a parent with two teenage daughters, I wouldn't want them necessarily to ride a motorbike, but I actually would feel comfortable about them driving one of these. Because of the seat belt, they don't need a helmet, and they've got this cage. And that's talking as a father.
It certainly gets some looks in it, I must say, because it's a wacky kind of thing, something you don't expect to find on the BMW stand. At this stage, it's a concept. Will we see it in production? When can we expect it?
It's more than a concept, and we'll see it in about 2 years' time. And I think there'll be a whole new market opens up for this vehicle, without a doubt.
So we'll see the businessmen in their pinstripes heading off to the station, ready to go to work on one of those.
Well, that's actually right, because you don't need to wear all the leathers. Because of the protection it offers, you don't need all the leathers and the gear that you normally wear with a motorcycle. And also, legislation in Germany at the moment will probably say that you don't need to wear a helmet. Now, again, if that legislation goes through to Britain as well, then it gives a whole new freedom to two-wheel travel.
Let me put a point to you. I've seen all these new cars from yourself, Citroën, with the new Zara. From, I don't know if you noticed, but Volkswagen have also launched a new car called a Golf. And it probably hasn't escaped your attention either that there's something from Vauxhall or Opel called the Astra. But they're not terribly revolutionary, are they? They're not exactly cutting-edge stuff in design terms, are they?
Well, I don't know about the other two marks that you've mentioned, but obviously you haven't understood our product very well. I would like to point out to you that, in fact, on our product, we feel that we've hit the target with the customer. We've given them a design that is, in fact, a classic, as you've mentioned, a classic design, Citroën, with the, what I would call the animal, aggressive, cat-like, feline silhouette of a car. The short rear end, the long nose, the cat in the jungle getting ready to spring when she pumps up on her suspension. So we've given the customer a car that is recognizable as a Citroën. The other two marks you mentioned, I agree with your comments exactly. But for us, we feel we've hit our mark exact.
Okay. That was a politician would have been proud of an answer like that, I have to say. But you're not a politician, you're a car designer, and you head, say that word Citroën again, because I've never heard anybody say Citroën quite like you.
Citroën.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll practice that one at home. But you're the chief of design, but of course, the deal is that you get all the money and everyone else does the work, don't they? Because this car is, this car was actually done by, is it fair to say that this car ultimately is the responsibility of an Englishman? He was the team leader, as it were?
Yes, I think that's fair to say. As you know, in our team, we are an international team. We have people from all over the world, and that brings a certain flavor to all of our products.
Now, I think a lot of people listening to this will be surprised to learn that you've got so many non-French people, if you like, for want of a better description, in the studio. Is it Vélizy near Paris? That's the correct title? of your studio?
Yes, it is.
That's right. I've been there, although I temporarily forgot the name. Sorry, I've been slightly distracted by a staggeringly attractive Citroen Dancer over there. But back to the point. You've got a lot of Brits there and other nationalities. I mean, the French are always considered the kind of, along with the Italians, I suppose, the sort of design gurus of the world in terms of style and whatnot. And yet the French rely on you, an American or a North American. They rely on the Brits to come in and do their work for them. Why is that?
Well, I think if you look at any studio in France, where it be Renault or ourselves or Christian Dior or any of the design houses, they are all international. In reference to the design specifically, in France, historically, there has been no school that specifically majors in industrial design automotive.
That's surprising. You would have thought in all the countries in the world, you know, France and Italy would have such schools, wouldn't you?
You would think so, but the same thing is true in Italy. It's either in your blood and you get into the business, but as you know, there's the Royal College of Art in London, the school in Coventry, Art Center, and in Germany, Pforzheim. I think the competitive marks, especially the Volkswagen, is a brick. And if people prefer to buy and drive a brick, that's fine. But in fact, we are selling a very class car, a very classy car, attention to detail, fit and finish, and style. And France, that's, as you mentioned earlier, is about style.
Well, one of the joys of going to international motor shows is seeing how the motor companies try to outdo each other by building huge, impressive stands and hiring in performance acts. And video technology also plays its part. Take a look at this jaw-dropping video from BMW. Now, if you had the job to direct a video showing the safety and drivability of BMW's 540i, what would you film? A tractor pulling out in front of the car? No. You'd film two scantily clad females in a surreal desert trying to shoot a hapless driver off the track with a variety of sci-fi weapons. Well, you would, wouldn't you? Well, I'm speechless. That sells the car to me. Now, and also know how to handle my car next time a huge glass wall rises up before me on the M6. Quite bizarre. Right, so we'll take a quick break and then we'll hear from Mike Rutherford on the new Mazda 626, and Ginny will be interviewing Ford's design supremo Claude Lobo. Hi, welcome back. Out of all the European motor shows, the Frankfurt show has to be the most spectacular. After all, there are 10 massive aircraft hangar-sized halls packed with displays and buildings within buildings. The Ford stand may not have been the biggest, but it certainly wooed the crowd to see the Cougar concept, the MC2, and also to experience Ford technology down a welcoming tunnel.
The Ford stand is dominated by 3 examples of its new edge design policy that we first saw come into action with the good old curvy car. This is followed by the Ford Puma, which of course has been a great hit on British roads at the moment. And the latest example is over here. It's called the MC2. And many people think that if you look closer, it will give you a very good idea of what Ford's big brother to the Puma, the Kuga, will look like when it comes out next year. Ford have moved away to something totally different, and you've been responsible for the new Edge design. What did you want to achieve with this? Did you really want to shock people into looking at Ford again, do you think?
No, obviously I don't want to shock the people, I want to please the people. If you remember, 10, 15 years ago we started with the aero design on some European and American cars, and everybody followed us at the time. So we thought several years ago there was time to change and to become the leaders again in a new trend, and we create Edge design.
There's a very definite style to Edge design. Where have you drawn inspirations from? What were you looking at?
Well, we're looking at, let's say, Edge design could be explained in 3 words: simplicity, quality, and precision. We find out that by underlining some of the features very firmly with an edge, we could improve the quality of the sheet metal, the quality of the fit and finish, and also give the car a lot more personality. So that is the reason why we did it.
Now, I know you talk about you talk about words there, and you say that you're aiming for simplicity, things like that. But there must be visual images that you drew upon, when you were looking at all these lines, looking to create things. What have you drawn from the history of cars and from things that you like in general? Maybe art around you, maybe books. What sort of what things do you look at physically?
Well, we look the environment. You look the new building, the architectures. You look also the new, let's say, features in kitchen utensils, in TVs, in radios, in motorbikes, in everything. And you see that the style changed. The people have had a certain evolution, and I think you have to come with it. You cannot stay always with the same thing. On the other side, we wanted to give our cars a more distinct personality, and by playing with graphics and clean lines around the headlamps, tail lamps, and sometimes DLO body side, then you give those cars, a personality that people aspire to.
They certainly do have personalities. They almost seem to smile out to you at the moment, which surprises me in a way, because I know in particular the Puma was designed on computer in 35 days. Do you not think that takes away from some of the heart and the soul of the vehicle?
Well, there was 135 days, not 35 days. Well, the Puma was done on the computer, but we are working only on computers since many, many years at Ford, and we have a very good and very efficient design process on that. I wouldn't tell you the recipe, but I could tell you the ingredients.
Oh, go on. I won't tell
No. And obviously, we want to have our cars with personality, but inviting personality. We want them to smile at you, not to become toys, but something serious but inviting. And that is one thing that we can do by treating headlamps and grille in a certain way. And I think we achieved that on the car, we achieved that on the Puma. The MC2 that you saw downstairs is also something like that. And you will be surprised when you see the new Escort.
Yeah, the MC2 that you've just briefly mentioned there is it's a design study, it's a concept, isn't it? But how closely will Kuga, when we see that next year, how closely will that resemble MC2?
It will be very, very close to the MC2. We will have some small differences because of feasibility and because of cost, and also over homologation. For example, the headlamps that we're showing on the MC2, they are not yet homologated, they are not yet legal, so we will have to come back to a more legal type of headlamps like Puma or whatever, but the car is very, very close to the reality.
Are you governed an awful lot by regulations and by rules? Are there many occasions when you would like to do so much more but you can't do?
Yes, mainly if you do a global car, you have to fulfill the regulation from the States, from Japan, and from Europe. And even within Europe, we have 14 different regulations. For example, the way that you have to light the license plate at the rear.
What else can you tell me about Kuga? What can we expect from it next year?
Well, Kuga will be a very exciting and dynamic sports car. It certainly will, for some of the Ford customers, remember of the Capri of the 70s.
The boy races.
Not more than a ball racer. It will be a very nice, sophisticated, dynamic car, and I'm sure that it will be a success.
And what about the new Escort? Can you get that photograph out of your pocket and show me what it's really going to look like? Because you can't tell from these spy shots.
Unfortunately, I don't have the photograph from the Escort in my pocket. I only have my wife and my children here. But you will be very surprised when you see the Escort, and I'm sure that it will be also a very good success. I'm very pleased having seen the new, let's say, Astra and the new Xera, I think, from Citroën. I think with the Escort we will have a very, very good product on the market next year.
It looks to me as if it's going to be a very radical change from the old Escort, and from looking at what you've been doing recently, I'm sure that will be true. Is there not a conflict there between upsetting traditional Ford buyers who may love the Escort just the way they are, and it may be a bit too radical for them?
The Escort will not be too radical. It's a good evolution of some of the design cues that we have had on the car, that we have on the Puma, that we show on the MC2. It's not a radical design. It's radical in terms of package, of where we treat the materials, the way we dress up the vehicle, but it's not radical. It's not as bad as the spy photos. The spy photos are completely wrong. The real car is really beautiful.
Ginny Buckley talking to Claude Lobo, design guru of the Ford Motor Company. Next week on our new show, Motor Week, Ginny will be finding out about Ford's fuel cell technology and about how it opens the way for practical electric vehicles. Well, we've all seen the pictures of the new Rover Mini, but why did they stick to that design after these concepts we were shown back at the Geneva show? Spiritual 1 and Spiritual 2 were the names of these Mini concepts, but red herrings should have been their name. The top brass at Rover knew all the time that this design was to be chosen. The idea was to retain the best design cues while updating the vehicle for the next century. After the break, the full story behind the new Mini. Welcome back to Four Wheels Good and our continuing coverage of the Frankfurt Motor Show. Some hardened hacks don't bother going to press conferences at motor shows because they think there'll be no real surprises revealed. The night before the show opened, however, the new Mini burst onto the stage and there was a rush to the phones to get a picture in the next day's national papers and magazines.
Now that is a taste. This is Mr. Stevenson, ladies and gentlemen. And is this a taste of the new Mini?
This isn't a taste of the new Mini, Sonia. This is the new Mini.
Wow.
This is the real thing.
So what else can you tell us about it? A little bit more details. We need some more details here.
Well, first of all, the key thing is this is truly a worthy successor to that great tradition that Sir Alec Issigonis started some 40 years ago when he designed the original Mini. Now, I think many people in the motor industry felt that Sir Alec had created an icon
We thought he had, and this car is faithful to that icon.
Well, that's okay, but doesn't that mean it's sort of old-fashioned then?
No, it doesn't. Come on, let's come and have a look at our little baby, Sonia. Let's see what we think of it.
Let us see, yes.
I mean, if we come round the side here, as you can see, the car is absolutely, unashamedly sporty, and we're really proud of that.
A car like a Mini, what an act to follow. And the car has been with us for nearly 40 years. I mean, that is incredible, isn't it? But Sir Alex Igonis, all those years ago, created a car that could last so long. And now the task is to replace it. Well, you can imagine this is a pretty terrifying mission.
With one that will take us to 2040 then, if you're going off those days.
Well, I'd like to think we could follow Sir Alex' act. Sadly, I think in the modern era, cars don't have such a long life. But certainly, I think the new Mini will have an extensive and healthy life.
I know you're talking about a car that's going to take you forward and a car that's got to have modern styling cues and have its place certainly in the next century, which is when we'll see it. But you must have wanted to retain a lot of the heritage of the Mini there, which is quite obvious in the styling. What have you kept, do you think, that is really the quintessential British Mini?
Well, we felt it was absolutely critical that the car had to be recognisable as a Mini, instantly recognisable down the road. And I'm very confident we've achieved that. If you look at the original Mini, you'll see a whole number of features about it. First of all, and probably most importantly, it's the face of the car. That's always the most important thing to look at. Mini has that friendly face. And you'll see it on the old car, and you'll see just that same face, waiting to call you into the showroom on the new car. Clearly, there's what we call in the design trade, the down-the-road graphics, a wonderful industry term. What it fundamentally means is when the car is viewed down the road, which is how the way you normally look at a car, how does it look? Does it look good? And is it recognizable? And the new Mini has that instant down-the-road graphic appeal. It's totally unique, it's immediately recognizable, and you know it's a Mini. And that's the way we assess it. In addition to that, there's the execution of the individual features of the car. The old Mini was clearly a very British piece of design, and the new car is also. And British designs tend to have some exquisite detailing of the individual components of the car. And if you study the new Mini, I think you'll see that.
You talk about it being very much a piece of British design, and of course you now are owned by the BMW Group. Was there some kind of a battle going on at all for you to keep the Mini a British design car and a British manufactured car, or did BMW want some input into that?
It would be entirely wrong to say there was a battle. Firstly, I think it's fair to say that we must credit the BMW Group for allowing Rover Group to be able to fund the new Mini. It was always a touch-and-go project for us, and within the context of BMW, it became very clear to us that we could afford to do the new car. What a wonderful position. We work extremely closely as an integrated part of BMW design and engineering, and I'm proud that that is the case. But equally, we retain our Rover independence. So within that context, naturally, there are some wonderful battles between engineers and designers, and that's simply a healthy part of a group working to produce fantastic products. Having said that, is the new Mini a British motor car? You bet your life it is. It's being designed and engineered in Rover's new test facilities, new design and engineering test facilities at Gaydon, and that for me makes it an entirely British proposition. It will be manufactured in Rover's factory at Longbridge, and a very high proportion of the components will be sourced in the UK. What could be better for Britain?
So it will mean more jobs for Britain, will it, when it comes into production?
It absolutely will, I'm pleased to say. It'll secure the jobs for our workforce at Longbridge. Of course, it's tremendously good news for my design and engineering team. Yet another project to keep them busy. And it's super news for the component industry in the UK.
I'm joined now by another British classic, as classic as the Mini itself, John Cooper. It's lovely to see you. John, what do you think of the new Mini?
I think it's great. It's a Mini. It's the new, and it's going to be the new Mini. It's got a wheel at each corner. It looks like a Mini, and I know it's a little bigger, and it's had to be modified slightly for the safety regulations and those sort of things. But I think the team at Rovers have done a wonderful job on it. Actually, I'm very proud. And I'm sure Issy Gonis in the 21st century would have been very proud of it when he sees, if he'd have seen it.
Do you think this is how he would have liked to have seen the Mini develop?
Oh, I'm sure he would. I mean, you've got to remember he designed it 40 years ago, really. It's such a cult car, especially in Japan and places like that. And the thing about a Mini, it's when you get in it, it's part of you. It's fun to drive. And I'm sure the new one's going to be the same.
The most obvious things seem to be obviously the light. The lights are different on it. It's larger, it's higher off the floor. Do you think that's going to change the whole Mini driving experience? Because it's a very immediate feel, isn't it?
Well, it won't when you get in it and it feels like a Mini. No, it won't matter. That'll be all right. And, everybody, we've had these concept cars with the engine under the back seat and that sort of thing. But this is a proper Mini with the engine in the same place as Issy Gonis put it 40 years ago in the front with the front-wheel drive. No, I think it's great, and I'm very proud.
So what do you think you could do with it?
A lot.
And when are you going to get your hands on one to try?
Well, I hope, perhaps before I'm in my wheelchair anyhow.
Where did you draw all your inspirations from? Because you've done some amazing things with Minis over the year. Where have you got all your ideas and all the inspiration from?
Well, basically, when I knew Issy Gonis before the Mini, and when he was designing the Morris Minor and that sort of thing, and we were using the Morris Minor engine in our Formula Junior racing cars when we were building Grand Prix cars. And I saw him building the Mini, and I realised what a classic car it was. And I took one over to Italy, and Lampredi, the chief engineer of Fiat, and previously Ferraris, drove it, and he said that is the car of the future, which really hit me. And when the Mini came out, my drivers, McLaren, Brabham, myself, Salvadori, we put Formula Junior engines into the car. They didn't stop because of the drum brakes. And we realized it was the first four-seater family car, only 10 feet long, front-wheel drive, east-west engine, which everybody has copied now, which handled like a sports car. It was a sports car.
And it was that immediate, was it?
That was immediate feeling. I thought, this is a car we can do something with. And it won the Monte Carlo Rally. Well, it won it 4 times, but disqualified the 3rd time because of the headlights, But it won many rallies and many touring car championships. And it's a family car. And it was thanks to Issy Gonis, it was the start of the hatchback, the Golf and the Peugeot and so forth,
David, you're based out in Japan.
That's
and
right, yes.
Japan, of course, is a huge market for the Mini. It's a quarter of all sales, is that correct?
It's a quarter of our sales in Japan, and it's the largest market for Mini in the world now, surprisingly enough. Maybe 8,000 or more this year we'll sell.
Why do you think it's so successful there? Is it the fact that it's just a small car and smaller people, they like a small car, or is it more than that?
There is a market for small cars in Japan. It's not just because they're smaller people. But I think it's because Mini was, for many years, something which was an unobtainable kind of product. And there's a whole generation of people who were really attracted to Mini, but could never actually own one. And they were really among the leaders of the people who were interested in buying Mini when it became possible to get hold of one in Japan. And then they passed that sort of longing onto new generations of people. So we have an owner body which is maybe 60 years old at one end and 18 years old at the other. It's quite fantastic.
But unfortunately, it's gone back in its box. Now, it is going to come out, isn't it? Because we've seen the concepts in the past that went away and, they aroused a lot of attention. We will definitely see this Mini, will we?
The one that you saw last night for a glimpse is the future Mini. It's not a spoof or anything. No, that's what we're going to do.
There we go, the story behind the new Mini. It's strange how some models do command such loyalty after such a long time. The VW Beetle, of course, has been revamped and will be out in a few years' time. Perhaps there'll be a revamped Morris Marina or Austin Allegro. Well, perhaps not. There'll be further Frankfurt reports and associated stories in our new show, Motor Week, which starts next week. Four Wheels Good becomes a half-hour show and will include many of our regular existing features, for example, Inside Motors, which comes up after the break. Hi and welcome back. Now, we may live in a small country, but we have some big ideas sometimes. Never mind who invented the cars, who invented the first effective materials to make them stop? Well, we went along to Derbyshire to visit the centenary celebrations of one of the world's oldest brake factories.
It may have been the weekend, but the workers at the Ferodo brake factory were pouring back to work, this time with invited family and friends, proud to show them round one of the world's oldest brake factories. Classic cars and commercial vehicles were everywhere. Most of them would have had brakes from this very factory as original equipment.
Our company is 100 years old this year, and today is the day when we celebrate that with all our employees and their families and their friends. It's a very, very competitive industry we work in, but yes, Ferodo Chapel has had several quite good years now, so we're very determined to stay there. You get what you pay for with brakes, on new vehicles particularly. The manufacturers are very, very concerned that the brakes not only stop the car, because everybody just takes that for granted, but that you don't have noise, for example, when you apply the brakes, that your brakes feel good as you're pushing your foot down on the pedal. So there's a lot of refinements now which vehicle manufacturers look for.
They called it an open day, so I moseyed around. I'm sure a friendly brake boffin would explain further.
In the brake material itself, it can be up to about 20 different chemicals from all sources around the world, from hard abrasives down to mineral fibres, basically holding the whole structure together. Basically, we developed for the original equipment market, and obviously the aftermarket will then benefit from that. Not only are we looking for wear, an improved wear of materials, but also comfort factors such as reduced noise and reduced judder. And quite often the brake material is benefiting the whole car by keeping the noise levels down. The materials now are very highly developed from a point of view of more compressible materials. As I said, the comfort factors are the important thing that we are improving on all the time.
Brakes are seen as a distress purchase for many, but it really is a false economy not to have them regularly checked.
The brakes, obviously, from a safety point of view, obviously need to be regularly checked and changed when required. Really, to keep brakes running too long, obviously, eventually will damage the disc itself and other parts of the brake. So yes, it's one item that should be checked very, very regularly.
The Ferodo factory in Chapel-on-le-Frith is not all high-tech machinery and checking equipment. The place is brightened up by this huge mural designed by local school children to celebrate the centenary of one of the world's oldest brake companies. But why is the factory in Derbyshire and not in an automotive area like the Midlands?
Oh, well, the first brake lines were made of cotton, and of course we're quite close to the cotton industry of Lancashire here, and hence the position that we're in today. Well, the story is we've got a history and a span of about 100 years, and the first vehicles with internal combustion engines had some of the earliest brakes, and we have a good spread.
Yes, it was back in the 1890s when this gentleman, Herbert Froude, pioneered those woven brakes before he went on to discover more effective materials to stop vehicles. Herbert must also have been good at Scrabble, as Ferodo sounded a far better name than Froude. The company has seen great expansion over the years, developing brakes for high-speed trains as well. If you think your car brakes do a good job, just imagine the braking systems needed to halt a beast like this. But Ferodo's heart has always been in automotive applications, and close links with motorsport have provided essential test beds for new developments. They've also sponsored this ultra superbike to be ridden by Gabriel Utley, who aims to break the land speed record, and he wants to brake safely afterwards as well.
Funnily enough, I don't seem to have any problems going fast. I do want to stop at the far end because obviously when I'm going flat out, I actually do the length of a football pitch in less than 3/4 of a second. Well, when you're accelerating, it actually pushes the eyeballs back in your sockets, so you don't actually get to see a lot when you're actually riding it. It only starts to become clear when you're under braking, and you want to obviously see the green bit coming up at the end of the runway. The horsepower is somewhere over 200. We're not really sure. It's got an awful lot of horsepower. It does 0 to 150 in just under 9 seconds. I'm hoping to do about 230 miles an hour with it this year, and we'll be having a go at the record at the end of September in Norfolk.
There's a man going places. And after our visit to the open day at Chapel-on-Lough, it's good to know that so much work is being done to help us all stop more effectively and make motoring more comfortable.
Well, I think the message is to the average motorist, think about what brakes do for you, and when you take your car to a garage, just think about the product itself, because most motorists take their car to a garage to have it serviced, and they don't think safety, and the most critical component is the brakes, and you need to have the best quality because it's a life-saving product, it really is.
Well, no point making cars fast, I suppose, unless you can make them stop. Peter Baker at the Ferodo Brake Factory in Derbyshire. Finally tonight, in our weekly car maintenance feature, John Wright continues his investigation into his brakes. And this week he strips down and he prepares to fit new ones to his car.
Caliper's held on with 2 bolts that we've freed off around the back. Just get the second one off and then it'll fall away in our hands. And then the disc just pops away cleanly. One of the things that is very important when you're fitting discs is to clean up the hub very, very carefully, because the new disc has got to fit absolutely flat against that new hub. Now what I can see here is there are a few rust spots, so what I'm going to do is just get a file over them to get it really flat. There we are, lovely clean flat surface to put the new disc on. Right, we'll just get the new discs ready for fitting. Right, as they come from the factory, they've got a protective coating on them to stop them going rusty in the box, and you've got to get rid of that because that inhibits the braking performance. Just let it soak in and remove the solvent. Right. As you can see, I'm using clean rags. It's not one of the occasions when you use a dirty rag to do a job. When you're dealing with brake parts, cleanliness is next to godliness. We'll put the caliper back on. Just goes over there, 2 bolts around the back. Now it's time to fit the brake pads. Take them out to the bottom of the box. 2 with wires on are the wear indicator ones, 2 without aren't. So you take 1 of each. That's set for one side, set for this side. You just slot them in like that. And the wear indicator connects up there. Wear indicator is an electrical device that when the pad gets down to there, the light will come on your dashboard and tell you, your pads are wearing out, pal. Okay, that's it. Right, we'll get the pins back in and then away. Right, we'll just pop the pins back in and that's the job finished. That one goes in there. Through there, and then underneath that spring through there and back in the tie. Sometimes they need a little bit of gentle persuasion. There we go, job done, all done and dusted. Peugeot now stops properly. These are the warm parts. Pair of pads down to absolutely nothing and a badly scored disc. Thank you very much for watching Inside Motors. See you again next week.
And there'll be more tips from the workshop next week. Well, this is a sad moment, as this is the last 4 Wheels Good I'll be presenting. I've really enjoyed my last year on the show, and we've experienced a lot of motoring stories together. Next week, the programme becomes a half-hour format covering classic cars, motoring personalities and our feature Inside Motors. The programme will be hosted by Eamon O'Neill. We have another new show which will feature only the very latest in automotive news, presented by Mike Rutherford and Ginny Buckley. You may have heard of them, called Motor Week. The first Motor Week will focus on Volkswagen's new Golf. Is the Mark IV really the way forward? Check your TV schedule magazine for details of the all-new Motor Week and 4 Wheels Good. From all of the team, it's goodbye.